a lot of people ask me questions about CDPs and DMPs and CRMs and all this sort of stuff. And today's topic on Email Never Sleeps is what are CDPs and why are brands considering them? What you should do to consider them. And you know what? I think I brought the right person on to talk about this. Roy Wolin is the president of Hansa Marketing Services. They're a customer data platform agency. So, what better person to sort of bring on and talk about this? But I'm not going to steal your thunder, Roy. I want you to give the audience like who you are, how long you've been in this business, and then let's just jump in.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be here, Andrew. Listen, I've been working with customer data for quite a while, and I started on the agency side, just putting mass advertising in front of everybody. Who cares? And I feel like there was always something in the back of our mind as data-driven marketers, your audience in particular, we can do better. Like, who are we talking to? Like, how do we customize an experience for them? How do we know what works? So
Yeah.
this whole thing about my agency and customer data platforms as an evolution of the technology, it's really just finding more ways to be effective as marketers. So it's a piece of technology and it's unique and, it's differentiated from CRM systems, the old customer databases, data management platforms, which is more ad tech. And
Yep.
my agency focus on customer data platforms as a way to optimize those conversations and experiences for brands.
So, I think one of the questions I get when I go speak or even questions that I get in emails is, you hear the word CDP, right? And you hear the horror stories of in the past, right? Of CRMs or large scale data platforms. And there's this notion of being sort of having trepidation around it because it's just this big behemoth, and as you see this industry evolve, put to rest maybe some of the myths that people have around CDPs in it itself.
Well, people are afraid of CDPs and they're afraid because they can't define it. They're
Yeah.
afraid because they're $1 million or more each. Like,
Mhm.
how do we prove the value of that? Like, what do we get in exchange for such a big whopping investment? And
Yeah.
so some brands are like, well, we don't need a CDP.
Mm.
We'll just keep doing our marketing as we're doing it. And they send out emails to everybody 3 times a day. Everyone gets the same message. And, maybe that's okay. But I feel as an industry, we can do better. As marketing leaders, we can really understand what people want
Right.
from a brand. And the way I think about it is these are moments where customers are engaging with a brand. And that could be with email, but it could be with social media. It could
Mhm.
be searching for things, landing on websites, having mobile experiences, going to a store, a physical location. So what a
Mhm.
CDP, a customer data platform, is supposed to do is
Mhm.
bring in all those data sets and try to figure out who's engaging with the brand. Who are we talking to? Is this somebody really important?
Mhm.
Are we aware of their past interactions and what they bought? Can we anticipate what they want from us next? The
Yeah.
reward for doing that is it's not just better experiences, some nebulous thing
Yeah.
for customers. It's a way in which we can cut down on the irrelevant spam going out 3 times a day to people that don't really care about us. So
Yeah.
CDPs are supposed to demonstrate value, meaning there's incrementality that if we understand who's engaging and how to put messages up in front of them across channels going
Mhm.
forward, that it's supposed to lead to business outcomes. The
Yeah.
business outcome is the return on investment. The
Mhm.
business outcome is what? It's not just we recognize somebody, but we activated them. We got them to spend more, like add another item into attach an item into their cart, or
Mhm.
buy more often, or refer other people into the brand, or
Mhm.
have higher lifetime value over the long term. And so that's easy to say, but customer data platforms are trying to trap this business outcome to try to say, in
Yeah.
exchange for all that data, that we will do better with the customers by either getting new ones or keeping the ones that matter.
Now you mentioned something at the beginning, right? Around cost, right?
Yeah.
And you said $1 million, right? I don't know what the typical cost for a CDP platforms. I haven't run an RFP in a few years, right? Is that what they can expect to pay? Do you think that market pressure is going to drive down those costs like they have with ESPs over the years? Tell me a little bit about this trepidation, and I keep using that word simply because they think it's big, they think it's expensive, and they may not need it, right? So I'm just curious about the cost aspect of this.
Yeah, well, so the cost is, it's not cheap to get
Yeah.
into customer data. And when I think about that as a cost, it's comprehensive. It's all the data ingestion. It's
Mhm.
what they call customer identity, where they're
Mhm.
trying to fit, where the system is trying to figure out who are we talking to. And it's more sophisticated than meets the eye. It's also anonymous visitors, it's cookies, it's people we haven't met yet. They don't want to divulge who they are, but we're tracking all of that data as a way to stage the fact that we are interacting with somebody. There's a real person there. It's not a device. And so a
Right.
customer data platform will keep track of all those interactions until the consumer is ready to identify herself. And then all of a sudden, now we have all that history and now we know what you're looking for.
Right.
But what
Right.
your question is about costs.
Yeah.
The cost could be for the platform itself. The cost
Mhm.
could be for the channels, like the email channel. The cost
Mhm.
could be for contextual data, like we know that that person has kids at home. We know that that person just bought a car. We know that that person just graduated from college,
Right.
and those kinds of contextual information, is sometimes very relevant to a brand, and there's
Mhm.
costs associated with it. And so,
Sure.
can it go down? Can you get it cheaper? Yeah. I mean, there are some CDP vendors out there that are like, we're not going to charge you to implement anything. We're
Mhm.
just going to set this up as a pilot, see if it
Mhm.
adds value, and then you can pay as you go. And so then the costs really plummet from there. But I think it's healthy for us to think as marketing leaders that that may sound too good to be true. And it is too good to be true because there is some effort that is required to build these things
Mhm.
internally as well as from a vendor. We're
Mhm.
hosting things, we're buying data, we're subscribing to the technology that we're using to identify people
Right.
and engage with them. So there are some costs there. And I feel like the best advice I can give people in your audience is
Mm.
let's not start with the price tag. Let's start with
Okay.
look in the mirror. What are we trying to get out of customer data? How can we do better? Where are the gaps?
Right.
And are customer data platforms viable in ways to close the gap and to give us a roadmap for success? If yes, then we build a business case and say, well, how much are we talking? Is it $60,000? Is it $600,000? And what are
Yeah.
we getting for that? How do we prove that that is bringing us value that we wouldn't have had if we didn't make that investment?
And I think that's an important note, Roy, is that companies need to sort of take a step back first and say, how do we want to improve? How do we want to get to the next level? And we talk about omni-channel and all this kind of stuff. I've been talking about it for years. And you hear the notion coming out of the C-suite that says we need to get better at doing this. But there also has to be not just a financial investment, right? There's a time investment involved in all of this as well. It's not like you're gonna snap your fingers and lo and behold, the CDP is there, magic, right? Type of stuff. It is an iterative, longer term process to get it on. And I think the 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 notion inside people's head is it'll be shelfware in 3 years. Well, it'll be shelfware in 3 years if you make it shelfware. If you implement it correctly, have the right people and partners to do it, you're going to see the benefits quicker as opposed to just leaving it out there. So
Yeah.
it's an investment. So you've done a lot of this, right? You've done this over time. Tell me a little bit about what they should expect. They make the decision, forget about the financial aspect, right? Month 1 through month 31, right? Like what are your what based off of your history of implementations, what can people expect?
Well,
Say realistic. Yeah.
let's work our way backwards a little bit. I mean, the
Okay.
basics of customer data
Yeah.
is unifying a customer record and bringing all the profiles together and
Okay.
figuring out the optimal time to talk to somebody in a given channel. And in the email world, we used to call that send time optimization. And there's multiple email addresses, and this is the work email, and this is the home email. And, let's figure out the best time to email somebody if they're active or if they're shopping elsewhere and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I think those are table stakes now,
Mhm.
and ingesting the data, unifying the customer record, those are kind of foundational. So if we work our way backwards into like, well, who are these people? Like, what do we know about them? What's our intelligence about them? What kind of decisions are we making about them? Can we predict what they're going to do next? Can we put different content in front of them, different offers in front of them? Can we figure out whether they even like email? And just because somebody opts out of an email doesn't mean they don't want to hear from a brand. So maybe they prefer social or put ads up in front of them. That's perfectly fine. So we're using the data to predict and anticipate, the next best recommendation, the content optimization, which channel they prefer, what the accessories that go with a purchase are. And so hopefully by all that insight, we can prove that there's lift here, that when we go out to the channel, that could be email, mobile, social, display, website, search, any channel. If we go out to the channel, because we have that insight, we're going to be able to get people to buy from us quicker and achieve those business outcomes that we were talking about. So how long does that take? I mean, I want to talk about your question about, do we get that in day one? The way I think about it with our clients is we really have to be clear on what are we trying to get out of this thing? So it's a gap analysis. It's building a consensus within the firm about what this piece of technology is going to do, defining success, developing KPIs to measure that success. And I wouldn't dare go into a chief financial officer and ask for a big budget unless I was crystal clear how we were going to make that money back, what we're going after in priority order. So how long does that take? That takes months. And that could be a 6-month thing. It could be a 9-month project. I feel like shelfware is the enemy. And if you're not really clear on what you're trying to get and scoping out this adventure as you make this investment, and now all of a sudden it's month 6, month 9, month 12, and we're in year 2 and we still are not extracting value out of a customer data platform, we're doomed. So part of this process is, how long will it take us to get to our future? What does our future look like? And what is the technology to get us to our ideal state?
So actually, I'll save my comment for sort of the wrap up on that, but it's around expectations internally and externally. And, you've seen a lot of vendors come in and go, add on. I want to take a moment and talk about CDP vendors in and itself, because we see a lot of emerging players. We see a lot of companies cobbling together old technologies to call it CDPs, and everyone's sort of raising the CDP flag and saying, we can do it. And then you got this new kid on the block that's like, well, we built this thing from the ground up. Is there any, if as people sort of look into this technology, and maybe this is something that you do as a part of your services, right? Is this something that kind of scares you off, the cobbling together or the brand new vendors, or it doesn't matter? There's a CDP company for just about anyone with the right amount of budget.
It's a buzzword like artificial intelligence. It's scary because we know it's important. We don't really know what it is, but we really should get, educated on this thing. And if you feel that way about AI, and you should, if you're a marketing leader, you should feel the same way about customer data, particularly since third-party cookies and cookie deprecation is going to be a big impact on us. What does that mean? That means that we have to really emphasize the first party data, this stuff we already own. That's customer data. That's first party. That's ours. So what are we going to do with those data? That's a customer data platform, which is a way to talk to media, a way to do outreach with email and text and all that. So I think it's easy to say we're an AI vendor. Okay, what does that mean? We're a CDP vendor. Okay, now there's 400 of them. It's like, that's not very helpful. We could go into, let's define what a CDP is. And I will tell you that the CDP Institute does a wonderful job of segmenting different types of CDP vendors. I think of it in a much simpler way. Go to the CDP Institute and educate yourself. It's all good for your audience. I think of it as, we are marketing people. We're customer centric by design. That's what we are in our soul. What are we trying to get out of this? If you're doing nothing more than trying to build better reports, like analytics, you could say it's an analytics CDP. I don't think that that's helpful. I think we take a step back, think about the customers we're going after, new customers, existing customers, their moments with the brand, and how do we make that better? And those are customer data moments. We need a customer data platform. Let's not overscope this. If we have reporting at the yin yang and we have an ESP we're really happy with and we don't need that, then you don't
Yeah.
need to spend $1 million. You already have a lot of those pieces, but
Yeah.
there is something that's missing, which is, do we recognize people? Can we unify the
Yeah.
data we have? Can we now go out to market and optimize the way we put experiences in front of them in a very seamless way across channels? When people get to a store or a dealership or a bank,
Yeah.
it's still customer data platforms.
Yeah.
It's not just digital.
So look, you've been president at Hansa for almost a little over 14 years now.
Yeah,
And I'm sure you got many stories to
yeah,
tell,
yeah.
right, of clients. Take our audience through one that just is thrilling. And don't sugarcoat it. I mean, I'm sure there's never, it's never always the best thing in the whole, unicorns and rainbows. Um, but take us through a customer. You can anonymize them, whatever, and tell our audience a story of the beauty of using a CDP,
Oh, I got a good
what
example.
they got it. So
Yeah. And
tell
by the way,
us.
thank you for the compliment for noticing that I'm old and it's 14 years, but I love what I do. And that's the compliment part. And I just love spending time on this stuff and working with clients. I'm a former client myself. I spent
Cool.
time at Bloomingdale's. I spent time at
Right.
Hewlett Packard. So both B2C, B2B. I love working with clients. The marketing leaders that I work with are all struggling with the same thing. How do I prove the value of
Mhm.
marketing? What would happen if marketing went away? Would we still be in business? How do we prove that the stuff we spend time on and
Yeah.
invest in, including technology, is
Yep.
making a difference? So I will tell you about an apparel multi-channel retailer
Okay.
that that had an acute problem to solve and solved it with a customer data platform. Their acute problem is they were very well known and very successful with a core group of people that were small and
Mhm.
saturated. But
Mm.
they were knocking it out of the park. Love it. Love what you do. Great brand,
Mhm.
great story, and great advocacy from those customers. You go outside that circle a little bit, it's outdoors wear, it's rugged apparel, and then you ask the customers in that space,
Yeah.
have you heard of this brand? No. I know some of their competitors quite well and I love them,
Yeah.
but would you consider this brand? We've never heard of them. So getting away from a core audience and entering a competitive space and building an argument that you have really good merchandise and that you are a viable competitor, this brand got a customer data platform to ingest the data, be able to tell with the personas that somebody is not part of the core, that there's a different experience that they're looking for, put that experience in front of them on the website, in email, in text, in mobile, and then capture a new customer with a
Mhm.
new story that may not have ever heard of you. We can't do that without a customer data platform.
You can't. Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And
So it's super fun to work on.
yeah, I'm sure. And when you see the end goal, right? You just say, okay, we've done X, we've proven the worth. Now the even more fun work begins is how can we iteratively make this even more awesome? How do we expand it even more? And that's where that's where the great stuff comes in around testing and and then you kind of look at it and say, we've now optimized the system, we've optimized our customer. Now we need to go after new ones. And I think that's
Right.
that's the that's the awesome. That's
Very
the
well
awesome.
put, Andrew.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a hidden story that customer data platforms
Yeah.
um, are there for lookalike models in paid media, retargeting to paid media,
Mhm.
interacting with data management platforms and much larger data sets
Yeah.
from big ad tech, all these audiences with Google, Meta, DSPs, display ads, giant audiences in the future. It'll be connected television. And if you really understand your customer, then it's a
Mhm.
matter of, well, who matches that and who is in market just like those guys are. And when I say match, I want to amend that. It's not that demographically they match. It's
Mhm.
they match in their heart and in their mind, and
Yeah.
they're in market and they're browsing and they're searching just like my best customers. Well, if they're browsing and searching just like my best customers, let's call
Mhm.
them browse-alikes or search-alikes. This look-alike thing kind of
Right.
implies that there's a demographic match. So we're
Yeah.
talking
Good
about
point.
media and we're
Yeah.
talking about finding audiences in the media who are
Hmm.
looking for the thing that our best customers love. And
Yeah,
that may not, it usually is not a demographic conversation.
it's a
That's
great,
what customer data platforms can do by
yeah,
onboarding that first party data up to DMPs and up to audiences for new customer acquisition.
that's a great point. That's a great point, everybody. Think about that, right? It's look-alike sometimes is often misrepresented in what you're really going after. All right. So I want to wrap it up here, Roy. You've been instrumental not only in this industry and doing what you've done at Hansa, but I would love for you to just maybe give two or three key takeaways that people should really go back and think about, because it's not like you're just going to make a snap decision like let's go find a CDP today, right?
Yeah,
That's not how things work. But
I'll give
if
you
you
a
were to,
couple.
yeah,
Yeah,
give the audience a couple.
and I'm having so much fun. I wish we could go on and on. I feel like there's something here for your audience that
Good.
if they want to link to the CDP Institute, to our agency,
Hmm.
Gartner, Forrester, there's tons of great research to really, as marketing leaders, as your audience, let's raise our game. Let's understand the use cases of customer data so that
Hmm.
we can be articulate about what we're trying to get out of this investment. So my first piece of advice is, beyond bringing yourself up to speed, is be a good partner to not only the chief financial officer, but the chief technology officer, CIO, CTO, however you want to put it, because they are looking for strong marketing leadership. And if without that, if we say, well, we're not getting into tech, I've never really met a marketing leader that doesn't know the technology. I mean, it's hard to
Hmm.
be successful as a marketing leader if you're not technical. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to write code. You don't have to be experts in Python. No, you know,
Right.
I don't want to do it, but you do have to tell your marketing counterpart, your technology counterpart, excuse me, that
Hmm.
this is why we're buying that piece of software. And they need you to build the consensus to define success. And if you're not there and they get frustrated, they're going to buy one of each and hope for the best. And they're going to have a lot of things that don't get used. They're going to be very frustrated. So add value, I guess,
Yeah.
is my point. Add value to tech, add
Hmm.
value to the CFO. Walk in to that meeting with the CFO with a business case. Am I accounting for all the costs, internal as well as vendor costs? Is the return on investment from this going to be better than other things that you can invest in, like a new set of trucks, right? Or
Right.
a new
Right.
store. What's the payback? How quick is that payback going to be? And what you're really signaling is that you are going to be accountable to these partners. So it's raise your game and be accountable, and walk in ready to work and ready to partner. Don't be the leader and like dictate, but
Mm.
don't shrink from your responsibilities, which is lead. This
Right.
is why we're doing it.
Right. Oh, awesome points. Let me add on and give two sort of takeaways that at least come to mind for me is, first of all, don't panic. Um, we as an industry love to focus sometimes on things that may have material impact, but not huge ones. And when you hear the term CDP or anything that sort of sounds scary or maybe is a little bit scary, don't panic and feel like you've got to rush into a decision. Like you said, Roy, do your research, but more importantly, is there are partners, whether it's vendor partners, agency partners like you guys or whatever, that know this stuff, right? And it's okay to ask for help and not panic. I think the second thing is set expectations not only with yourself, but the people around you. And oftentimes I've talked to marketing leaders and C-suite people, and I'd say, "Hey, what's on your agenda for 24 or 23 or the future? We're going to implement a CDP in the next 6 months." Well, when have you started? We haven't started yet, right? And so and there's a little bit of a chuckle in me because I get it, right? There's these expectations that are set, but make sure that they're realistic and that you're not going to push so hard that things are going to fail. And that's where you can rely on people who have done this time and time again.
Yeah,
Those expectations should go all the way up to the C-suite, especially if you've made the business case, like you said.
right.
Roy, I think
Do
that's
the needs analysis, to your point, Andrew.
oh,
Why
absolutely
are we doing this? And if you
right.
don't do that needs analysis, then you're
Yeah.
coming in unprepared. You have to know the reason why. Do the tech people in the firm want to do the needs analysis and have all those interviews and no, they don't want to do that. They want to keep all the technology working on operations and critical functions of the firm. They need you. They need marketing leaders to do that needs analysis.
Because at the end of the day, you as the marketing leader are going to be the ones using the system. So you have to prove the value to the worth for the IT or for the technical people to help you implement this along with any partners along the way. And I think that's really interesting.
Great.
As always, everybody, we are going to put the details or the deets for Roy up at the end of this podcast. You definitely can find him on LinkedIn. You can go to Hansa. You can learn more from him. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to accept your LinkedIn invitation and help you guys through this process, or even just discuss if the process is worthy and stuff that you want to do. And I wanted to thank you, Roy. I know we've known of each other for years and years, and I'm so glad I was able to get you on this podcast. I definitely am going to have you on again, maybe take it to a different level, maybe dig a couple feet deeper into this. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your knowledge, Roy. I really appreciate it. And any parting words before I say?
It's a great pleasure. You know, I appreciate the plug. I will say that we're colleagues in the industry, no business development required, but we do have a business case template. And whether you use ours or other people in the details that you're mentioning, I'm happy to share how we do it yourself if you like, but you have to do it. That's the parting word.
For sure. Well, thanks again, Roy. And as always, everybody, thank you for your continued support of Email Never Sleeps. Now go out there and do something fun today. Go out and do something that perhaps is innovation, and keep doing what you're doing in your programs. Thank you again, everybody. And we'll see you next time on Email Never Sleeps.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks.